Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Tin Man. I'm your host, Ethan Zimmerman, and this is going to be the very first video in which we have the chapters individually. Now, it's a bit misleading when I say that because all of the chapters during this week, at the very beginning, the first three chapters you're going to hear, were very short. And so rather than having a 6-minute video and an 8-minute video, I decided to put the first three chapters into one 20-minute video. So without further ado, here are chapters 13 through 15 of Genesis from the Bible. Apologies. We're starting with chapter 13. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Lot is his son, I believe. And Abram was very rich in cattle, silver, and in gold. Last time, the Pharaoh had given Abram and his wife a whole bunch of different stuff, but then he got kicked out because Abram had lied and said that his wife was his sister because apparently she was very pretty, and if the Egyptians found out that she was actually his wife, they would have killed him and taken her for themselves. I don't know what them being siblings instead of married has any effect on that, but Abram, on top of already having a bunch of different things alongside with him, was gifted a bunch of things from the Pharaoh. And he went on in his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent hath been in the beginning between Bethel and Hai, and unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. I'm pretty sure Lot is his son. I'm not sure. Let me look. I'm going back into a chapter here. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Begat Abram, Nor, and Haran begat Lot. Okay. Lot is his cousin. Okay, Lot is his cousin. They are brethren. I guess they're about the same. They're the same age. There's his brother, not brother, cousin. I apologize. Basically, they don't have enough resources in that one place, and I guess the shepherds were fighting over resources. This is Abram speaking. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray to thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right, and if thou departest to the right hand, I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. The Sodom and Gomorrah thing is interesting because doesn't that have to do with the person whose wife got turned into a pillar of salt? And because they were like gay or something, supposedly. That's what modern day American Christian conservatives, they always talk about sodomy, and it's because supposedly they were being sexually sinful. I remember them talking about Sodom and Gomorrah being created yet, but they definitely has not been destroyed. So I don't know if this is like foreshadowing, or if it's just saying that he looked at, I don't know. I am interested because, oh, I guess it is Lot. I think it's Lot's wife that does turn into a pillar of salt, which is definitely not magical. Then Lot chose him all of the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. And Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities in the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly, and the Lord said unto Abram, that after Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look. Oh my God, I'm illiterate today, I apologize. And the Lord said unto Abram, After that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest I will give to thee and to thy seed forever. I'm just laughing because this it reminds me of Mufasa and Simba. Everywhere the light touches, it's yours. And so he's like, yes, everything you can see, that's your stuff. God is Mufasa confirmed. I guess they're both our big, powerful voices in the clouds later. Um, let's see. Here we are. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram moved his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is Hebron, and there built an altar unto the Lord. That chapter was legitimately very uneventful. I think it's setting up the foreshadowing of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I think it's just setting up the foreshadowing of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I think it is really just talking about these characters going their separate ways, um, and Abram's seed being populous among all the earth. Although, all in all, that was not a very eventful chapter. So, a short one. We may be able to get 4 in this time, depending on how long these are. All right. Genesis chapter 14. And it came to pass in the days of Aphramel, king of Shinar, Erech, king of Elasar, Sharzard, the king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of nations. I say Sharzard because I'm illiterate and I cannot read. Shed Olarmer, but I'm probably just going to call him King Sharzard. Okay, in the days of this, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and Sinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. Okay, so there's war in the lands. All these were joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. In the Vale of Siddim, apologies, which is the Salt Sea. So, in the right hand of the ring, we have Aphramel, Erech, and King Charzard, and Tidal. And we have in the opposing corner, we have Bera, Bersha, Shinab, and Shimibur, um, and Zor. So one looks like it has more nations, but it's war. Here we go. 12 years they served King Charzard, and in the 13th year they rebelled. All of them, or the smaller the second group of them? I don't know. This is not incredibly clear to me. And in the 14th year came King Charzard and the kings that were with him, and he smote the Rephims in Asaroth, Karnam, and the Zuims in Ham, and the Enims in Shav Kiratham, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. I'm sure these things have meaning, but if these are never mentioned again, there's so many people in the genealogy who thus far have never been mentioned again. It was just saying that they had a kid who had a kid who had a kid who was important. It's frustrating, and it makes it difficult to read when there's a bunch of just very random names in there that are going to have no relevance throughout the book, the rest of Genesis, the rest of the chapter, even maybe. And the Horites in their mount in Seir unto Elopan, which is by the wilderness. We read that. And they returned, and they come unto Inshapat, which is Kadesh, and smote all around the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hezutomar. Another thing, when it says they came to this place, which is this place, is it just that was the old name and they're referring to it currently by its newer name? That's fine, I guess. Sure. Do it then, I guess. Do whatever. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zor. And they joined the battle with them in the vale of Siddim. with King Charizard, the king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, and Amarfil, king of Shinar, and Arak, king of Elisar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and fell there, that they remained fled, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and their victuals, and went their way. So there was a big battle, and people ran away. Um, and the winners sacked the city, apparently. Yeah, it just looks like it's war stuff, and people ran away, and people won, and the people who won, the victors. To the victors go the spoils. All right. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came the one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshal, and the brother of Aner, for these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Abram is rich; he is well off. He has 318 trained servants. Um, Due to the time, I'm going to assume that he probably, most likely, was not paying all these people, and they were probably slaves. That's just an educated guess about the cultures at the time. Like, I doubt that this guy had within his employ, like on his payroll, 318 people. Um, but I may be wrong. Basically, his cousin, his brother was, yeah, his cousin was captured, um, or nephew, and they're chasing down, I guess, an army with their 318 people against the force of 4 or 5 kings or whatever it was. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them into Habah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. So he and his servants, all by themselves, they take out a whole army. That's cool. No battle scenes. Come on, like I'm legitimately kind of disappointed. I absolutely love the Game of Thrones and the Song of Ice and Fire series, and the battle scenes in there are always very gripping. And this is just sort of like, yes, they killed them, and then they celebrated. Um, I don't know if we get more of that later on. Not necessarily that. Oh, I want to read about people getting disemboweled, but it's not. It is not a gripping book. Let's put it that way. Um, we're pretty close to being done with this chapter. A lot of these seem to be very short. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from slavery of Shaldemar. Okay, so they're just straight up there and like I get that. It's just that I don't know. Like it just mentions it no such. Hmm, it just mentions it so nonchalantly. Like generally, I don't know. I feel like if this is the whole inspired word of God thing, they should probably be condemning slavery. Like that might just be a good thing to do. Um, but I get that it was culturally relevant and very culturally prevalent at the time. Um, it's interesting though that the king was a slave. I don't know how likely that would be if like they're more likely to kill the people in power or to just hold them as prisoners rather than when I hear slave, I think of labor of some sort, service, like whether you're a house slave and you have to like clean things, or if you're, an agricultural slave, like the American South pre-Civil War with the enslaved African Americans. Um, I just don't think of it likely to do that to a king with their status and such. But here we are. And the king of Sodom went to meet with him after his return from the slavery of Shidamalar. That's King Charizard, and the kings that were with him at the Valley of Shiva, which is the King's Dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him, and he said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take anything from a thread to even a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldst say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men that were with me, Aner, Eshel, and Mamre, let them take their portion. I guess it's showing that he's a good old boy, and he's not taking things that don't belong to him. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're trying to go the moral route, it works to a certain extent. He's saying that I guess God has literally talked to him, but he's saying that I'm honoring him by not taking anything that's yours, um, but let the other people take their stuff, but I'm not taking anything from you personally. That is the end of Genesis chapter 14. These have been generally really short and not very substantive. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna move on to chapter 15 now. So here we go. Genesis chapter 15. And after these things the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. So basically, God's like, hey, don't worry, I am your reward. You don't need to take anything from anyone else. But Abram says, well, what have you given me? I guess besides the land that he gave him, God had said, everything that the light touches is yours. He pulled a Mufasa on him. He gave him a bunch of stuff, but apparently Abram is saying that all this is moot since I don't have a kid and I don't have anyone to pass this down to. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. So he's talking about this Eliezer of Damascus is not going to be his heir, but he's going to poop out a baby. I apologize. I am very mature. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward the heaven and tell the stars, if thou shalt be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. This is again him saying that I'm going to give you so many children that you can't even count them, or your children's children. Eventually, all the people in the earth, right? Like they're going to be uncountable, the number. I just lost my place. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that had brought thee out of Ur and the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle-dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece against one another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be in a stranger land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards they shall come out of it with great substance. Okay, so ignoring the whole sacrifice stuff, um, because that's not creepy, then I guess he's just saying, yeah, basically your kids, they're gonna go through a lot of shit. For 400 years, they're gonna be like terrorized. But I guess on the outside of that, they're gonna be all right. They're gonna come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. Unto the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kezanites, the Chemodites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaims, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Okay, basically, I don't know what the whole thing with the smoking furnace and the burning lamp, um, but God is basically saying, to your kids, they'll have all of this place. Um, yeah, so that's cool. That's the end of this chapter. Again, these chapters seem not to have a whole lot of substance, so I've been getting through them kind of faster, which is definitely a good thing. Um, so yeah, with that, we're moving on. I guess before we do that, overall, it's basically Abraham. It's God ensuring that that his children will be sufficiently looked after 400 years of being terrorized by another nation, of course. All right, and that's the end of that for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing, leaving a comment down below. It'll help me out, and it'll let me know that you appreciate this. So if you like these smaller segments, let me know down in the comments so I can keep doing them. And with that, that's it for today. I've been your host, Ethan Zimmerman, and this has been The Tin Man.